And welcome back. You are watching Thisday live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I'm Jeff Koinange. I'm going to start this segment with Angola. At least 17 people have been killed in a stampede at a football stadium in the northern city of Uige. According to officials, it happened during a football game between two First Division sides, Santa Rita de Casia and Recreativo de Libolo. Hundreds more were reported to have been injured when supporters stormed the gates after failing to gain entry. The stadium, by the way, has a capacity of 8,000. According to officials, people kept packing in. Now, 5 of the injured are reported to be in critical condition. Angola's president, José Eduardo dos Santos, has ordered an investigation into the incident. By the way, the game ended in a 1-0 defeat of the home side, Santa Rita de Casia. To the Philippines, and rescue workers are frantically searching for survivors after a powerful earthquake struck the southern Philippines, killing at least 6 people and sending thousands fleeing for safety. The quake, measuring 6.5, struck the southern city of Surigao in Mindanao Island late last night as most people were in bed. At least 126 people were injured, 15 of them in serious condition. Power and water supplies in the region were knocked out. As aftershocks hit the town, thousands of terrified residents fled to higher ground, fearing a tsunami would hit the coastal city. The Philippines lies on the so-called Ring of Fire, a vast Pacific Ocean region where many earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur. To India now, and voting is underway this morning in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh in what's seen as a crucial popularity test for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is halfway through his term as Prime Minister. With a population of over 200 people, Uttar Pradesh is India's most populous state, and how the state votes is virtually a guide to how the nation feels. This time, it also is being seen as a referendum on Modi's controversial ban on high-value notes, a move aimed at combating tax evasion by the rich that has also hit the poor hard. This was intended to stop tax evasion by India's richest citizens, but it has also hit the poor, and Modi's government has admitted that the withdrawal of the high-value banknotes, which was met with shock in India, has had an adverse impact on the economy. The northern state voted overwhelmingly for Mr. Modi's BJP party in 2014, but latest polls predict the result will be very close in what is many see as a key battleground state. Now, volunteers in New Zealand have managed to refloat around 100 of the 400 whales that were stranded on a remote beach in New Zealand. Many of the whales died overnight at Farewell Spit at the top of the South Island. Those that survived are now swimming in the bay off the beach. Hundreds of locals managed to rescue the survivors after forming a human chain to refloat the whales. The incident is one of the worst cases the country has seen. On Friday, a number of whales that had been refloated returned to the beach overnight, but a high tide and the arrival of new pilot whales this morning helped the rescue effort. Officials are also deciding how best to dispose of the whale carcasses. To Sudan now, and a Swiss archaeologist has discovered 3 temples in Sudan built thousands of years ago. Charles Bonnet, an expert in Sudan's archaeological heritage, says that the sites unearthed during recent digs were unlike anything discovered so far. Bonnet, whose excavation work in Sudan spans more than 50 years, hopes his new discoveries could help unlock some of the continent's oldest mysteries.
It is enormous building, round in shape, oval, sometimes of more than 50 meter long, oval in shape with 1,400 columns. That means enormous building. And this architecture is unknown. It is the beginning of something. There is no example in Central Africa or in the Nile Valley of this architecture. They don't know this architecture. Everybody don't know. It is completely new. And we have the chance in Dukigel to have the Egyptian architecture, to have the Nubian architecture, and now to have the African architecture.
In other news, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says that he is, quote, determined to do his best to facilitate a deal to reunify the divided Mediterranean island of Cyprus. Guterres met with Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim in Istanbul for talks aimed at pushing for progress in reaching a Cyprus settlement. Earlier this month, Cypriot leaders asked the UN to prepare a new international conference on security arrangements for a reunified island to take place in March. Greece, Turkey, and former colonial ruler Britain are the guarantor powers on the island under a 1960 deal. They are also required to attend talks since their role as guarantors gives them the right to intervene and defend the island's sovereign integrity.
Usually, when I ask if I am optimistic or pessimistic about the process, I answer with a famous sentence by Jean Monnet. I'm not optimistic, I'm not pessimistic, I'm just determined. I'm determined to do my best. It is not for me to decide who will represent the opposition and in what forms. The only thing we want is that representation to be inclusive of all the relevant parties of the opposition, both at the level of the armed groups that were in Astana.
Barış görüşmelerinin olumlu bir sonuca ulaşması bakımından Türkiye olarak her zaman yapıcı bir tutum izledik. Bundan sonra da bu tutumumuzu sürdüreceğiz. Ancak buradaki ince nokta Kıbrıs Türk halkının geleceğinin teminat altında.
Now, remember former Liberian President Charles Taylor? Well, he's currently serving a 50-year jail sentence for war crimes and crimes against humanity in a UK maximum security prison. And apparently, he's reported to have telephoned political allies in Liberia, advising them on tactics. Now, in the phone call, Taylor told his allies, quote, I'm in a cell, but I'm not in prison because my mind cannot be in prison. He also described himself as a, quote, sacrificial lamb. He went on to assure his supporters that he would never and has never abandoned them. Apparently, this is not the first time Taylor has made phone calls. In other calls, he has allegedly threatened opponents. Liberia, by the way, goes to the polls in October, and here's the twist. Taylor's National Patriotic Party, the NPP, is in a coalition with the Congress for Democratic Change, or the CDC, which is seeking to elect former football legend George Weah, with Charles Taylor's ex-wife, Jewel Taylor, standing in as vice president. Interesting. All right, time to take a look at the stories making headlines in some of the world's leading national newspapers. Here to help me go through them is football legend, TV presenter, John Fashanu. Fash, good to see you.
Morning, Jeff.
How are you, man?
Big stories.
Huge.
Africa's #1 newspaper, leading paper, Thisday. We have Muslim Brotherhood planning deadly attacks in Nigeria, says federal government.
It's almost a warning. They're warning Nigerians.
That is a direct warning, and it's telling you that we have to be very careful. Of course, you know, people will say, who are the Muslim Brotherhood? But we know that they are an offshoot of the Boko Haram. So that means danger.
An offshoot of ISIS as well.
Of course.
Have a big presence in North Africa.
Yes. So the federal government has now told us we must open our eyes as citizens and see that they're now going into chemical warfare.
Good Lord.
Which is another step up. It's worrying. It says that deadly attacks will be now concentrated in prisons, in banks, armed deposit areas. So it's a worrying time.
But this is not to raise alarm. It's just telling people to be vigilant, right?
Just telling people that it's not over yet. Just when you think the battle's over, you know, we were told, and we've seen wonderful news, what they've been doing in the north, our army, which we congratulate them. But we still, as citizens, have to keep our eyes open and be very careful.
Absolutely. Other stories making headlines, Fash.
Oh, we've got one of my favorite stories here.
Go on.
Yakubu, $9.8 million US.
That's the former NNPC boss, right?
That's it.
Cash
Guess
money.
what? Guess what?
What?
In a freezer and a safe.
Like a freezer, fridge, freezer?
Freezer, fridge, freezer. In a safe as well in Kaduna.
John, that's massive.
Now, you know,
that's massive.
I mean, Jeff, these sort of stories, you know, I got to say, they're not new.
Right.
But this one is true. $9.8 million
Cash
in there, and he said it was given to him by an unidentified friend. Wow.
You know what, John, and this is I guess one of many. You said it's not new.
No, it's not new.
But every time we hear stories like this, you know, this is 5 billion naira. You know that?
Yes,
this
it's a lot of money.
5 billion naira
Yes.
cash
Yes.
in your home.
Yes. I think, Jeff, we've got to congratulate EFCC because there's not many law enforcement offices would actually report that sort of money and bring it home.
Sure.
The fact that they're doing their job so well, we've got to say thumbs up, guys. Thumbs up.
Yeah. What else is making news, John?
Well, we've got crude oil stories, which I'm not going to go into because they're a little bit more technical.
Yeah, a little heavy.
We've got some big guys coming on there to talk about those very shortly.
Yeah.
But just before I finish, it's interesting to say that the government have said with a lot of these theft cases, corruption cases, we're not going to prosecute you. Bring the money back and we'll let you get on with your life.
Will they keep their word on that?
I hope so, because I think to prosecute some of these people who have made millions and millions, going into billions, could take up to 10, 15 years in court. So I think it's a very sensible way of actually getting rid of these cases, because there are many, Jeff, at the moment with EFCC.
Absolutely.
So it's basically, you have been caught stealing, give X amount of the money back, we'll even let you keep some of it and go on your way.
Yeah.
It's an easier way.
Wow. Fash, we're going to have to leave it at that for now.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you as always.
Thank you.
John Fashanu, TV presenter legend in the world of football. It's massive, John. It's massive. Time for another quick short break, but do stay with us. Business news ahead and a chat about some of the stories that John was talking about. We're going to have an interview exclusive with the chairman of the EFCC coming up. Don't go away. You are watching This Day live from Abuja, Nigeria. We're back in a moment.